My parents replaced me with my sister's baby on Thanksgiving, then asked me to buy the crib on Black Friday. So I blocked them all. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday, hands down. The food, the board games, the warmth of being around family. It was the one day I actually looked forward to, no matter how chaotic life got. But all of that changed the year my parents made it crystal clear that I was no longer a priority in their lives. That was the year I realized blood doesn't always mean belonging. Growing up, I always knew my sister Haley was the golden child. She could do no wrong, even when she did everything wrong. I used to joke about it, try to laugh it off, but deep down I held on to this tiny hope that maybe one day things would even out. That maybe one year I'd walk into Thanksgiving and feel like I mattered just as much. But that particular Thanksgiving, the energy was different from the start. The invite came through a vague text just 2 days before. No warm phone call, no "can't wait to see you," just a dry, "Hey, dinner's at 6, hope you can make it." I should have known something was up, but I showed up anyway, with a bottle of wine and a stupid smile, trying to keep traditions alive. When I got there, the first thing I noticed was the seating chart. Yes, my mom actually made one. And no, my name wasn't on it. Haley's newborn baby, who can't even sit up, was listed at the main table in my usual seat. Me? They'd put me at the end of the kids' table, next to my 9-year-old cousin who only talks about Minecraft. When I asked about it, my dad just chuckled and said, "Don't be dramatic." But what came next made that feel like nothing. And it was the moment I finally realized just how far they were willing to go to erase me from the picture. When I went upstairs after dinner, hoping to drop off my coat and take a breather, I opened the door to what used to be my room, and froze. Everything was gone. My bookshelves, my old gaming console, my high school posters, even the bed frame I helped my dad build when I was 15. It was all stripped bare, painted over in soft pastels with alphabet stickers already stuck to the closet door. There was a changing table where my dresser used to be. A freaking crib where my bed had been. I stood there like I'd walked into someone else's house. My mom walked by casually and said, "Oh, I meant to tell you, we turned it into the baby's nursery." Just like that. No warning, no heads up. No, "Hey, do you want to grab your stuff first?" Haley and her boyfriend, Trent, had apparently moved in temporarily since they were adjusting to parenthood. And I guess that adjustment required my entire room and everything in it. I asked where they put my stuff, and my mom waved it off with a shrug. "Some of it's in storage, I think. We had to make room." Then she pointed me toward the garage. I thought she was joking. But nope, there was a twin mattress on the floor, a folded blanket, and a space heater humming in the corner. "It's just for a couple of nights," she said, like that made it better. I laughed awkwardly and asked if she was serious. Her face didn't change. So I grabbed my phone, texted my friend Ryan, and said, "Hey man, mind if I crash with you tonight?" When I told my parents I was heading out, my dad didn't even look up from the TV. He just muttered, "Suit yourself." And that was the moment I realized. I wasn't just being excluded from dinner. I was being erased from the family. Haley has always been the golden child, the loud one, the center of attention, the girl who could crash the car, blame the curve in the road, and still walk away with ice cream and a hug. Growing up, it didn't matter what she did, she was always celebrated. I was the quiet kid, the one who got labeled mature for his age, because I didn't cause problems. Turns out, not causing problems just meant I was easy to ignore. When Haley got pregnant at 22 and dropped out of college, I braced myself for the fallout. I expected yelling, disappointment, maybe even a little accountability. Instead, my parents threw her a baby shower and painted her room. They turned her choices into a blessing. My mom said, "This baby is going to bring the family closer." My dad called it a new beginning. Meanwhile, I was busting my ass juggling a full scholarship and working part-time, and not once did they say, "We're proud of you." When I made the dean's list, no one mentioned it. When Haley forgot her own baby's doctor appointment, they called her exhausted and made her soup. I used to wonder if maybe I wasn't lovable in the same way. Maybe I didn't sparkle the way Haley did. Maybe it was me. But now, I see it for what it is. It wasn't about my personality. It was about convenience. Haley created chaos, and they jumped in to save her. It made them feel needed. I kept things together, and they took me for granted. It was a family dynamic built on emotional triage, and I was never bleeding enough to be noticed. This Thanksgiving wasn't the beginning of the problem. It was just the proof. The final confirmation that in their eyes, I was always second place. The next morning, Black Friday, I was still at my friend Ryan's place, sipping burnt coffee and trying to pretend the night before hadn't happened. Then my phone buzzed with a group text from my mom, Haley, and Trent. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. "Can you swing by Target today? They've got a great deal on cribs, but we don't want to deal with the crowd," she wrote. No, good morning, no, sorry about last night, just straight to the favor. Then Haley chimed in right after. "You have that big car, right? LOL?" Like I was their personal delivery service. I scrolled back up, thinking, maybe I missed a "we'll pay you" back, or "we'll send the money now." But nope, nothing. No offer, no hint of reimbursement. They expected me to buy it. Drop a few $100s on a baby crib for the same family that couldn't even be bothered to give me a seat at the table or a bed to sleep on. There was no apology, no acknowledgement. Just entitlement served up like it was normal. Like this was just what I was supposed to do. Because that's what I'd always done. I sat there staring at my phone, frozen, not angry, not hurt, just hollow. That numb kind of betrayal where the pain is so deep it doesn't even sting anymore. I wasn't family to them. I wasn't even a person. I was a tool, a wallet with legs. And in that moment I realized something important. They didn't just forget me. They never really saw me to begin with. I stared at the screen for a while, rereading the texts over and over. Something in me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. I typed out one sentence, no fluff, no emojis. Buy it yourself. I'm not your delivery guy. Then I hit send and tossed my phone onto the couch like it was radioactive. For the first time in my life, I'd said no to my family, and it felt like stepping off a ledge. It didn't take long. Haley replied within 30 seconds, and it was like she'd been waiting to pounce. "Wow, selfish much? Bitter much? You've always been jealous of me. Just admit it." The kind of message that isn't meant to start a conversation, just to stab and twist. I didn't respond, then came the voice note from my mom, her soft, disappointed tone, the same one she used when I got a B+ in 8th grade math. "Honey, family helps family. Don't be petty over furniture, it's just a crib. You're really going to make this into a thing?" She didn't ask how I was. She didn't apologize for the garage mattress or the missing bedroom. Just pure emotional manipulation dressed as concern. But the worst part? My dad. The man who didn't say a word during Thanksgiving. Who didn't even look up when I left. I checked the group chat and there it was. A little thumbs up on Haley's message calling me a loser. That tiny icon crushed something in me I didn't know was still breakable. That was it. That was the moment I stopped trying. I opened the chat settings, hit leave group, and then went down the list. Mom, blocked. Dad, blocked. Haley, blocked. Trent, blocked. No dramatic goodbye, no last word, just silence. Because if I wasn't family to them, then they didn't get to be family to me anymore. Blocking them felt quiet, like walking out of a room that had always been full of static. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't even sad at first. It just felt like space, like I finally had enough air to breathe. But the silence didn't stay empty for long. Because once the noise was gone, the memories crept in. Memories I'd buried so deep, they hit like dreams I wasn't sure were real. Like the time Haley borrowed the neighbor's car without permission when she was 16. She crashed it into a tree. Panicked, she called me first. I didn't even drive yet, but I told our parents it was me. I thought I was protecting her. My parents grounded me for a weekend, told me how disappointed they were, and Haley cried during dinner about how hard this was for her. She got ice cream. I got silence. Or when I had pneumonia in middle school. I could barely walk without coughing, but Haley had a big recital that night. My mom told me to push through and bundled me into the car. I sat in the back row of the auditorium, sweating and shivering, while Haley twirled under a spotlight. No one noticed I was nearly passing out. I still remember the burning behind my eyes, not from fever, but from knowing I wasn't worth staying home for. My birthdays always merged into Haley's spring break parties or cheer banquets. "It's just easier," my mom would say. "You don't mind, do you?" College acceptance? Well, we expected that. Job offer? Just don't let it go to your head. It wasn't that they forgot me, it was worse. They remembered me, but only when it was convenient. Only when I could take a hit or make their lives easier. I wasn't just ignored, I was used. And now, for the first time, I finally saw it clearly. About 3 days after I blocked my parents, I got a message from my cousin Jenna. We weren't super close, but we'd always been friendly. She was one of the few family members I thought might understand. The message started with, "Hey, I don't want to get in the middle, but your mom's been really upset. Why are you being so cold to her?" Cold. That was the word she used, like I was icing out someone who didn't deserve it. I asked what exactly my mom had told her. Jenna replied, "She said you're mad, over a seat at the table and some baby stuff. That you're just holding a grudge and blowing it way out of proportion." I sat there stunned for a second. That's what they reduced it to? Years of being sidelined, erased, manipulated, and now I was just the petty one ruining holidays over nothing. I sent her screenshots of the group texts, the crib, the kids' table, the guilt-tripping voice note. Jenna read them and replied, "Yeah, I get that it's frustrating, but they're under a lot of stress right now. Maybe just let it go." That word again. Stress. It had become their all-purpose eraser. Every time I was mistreated, it was because someone else was stressed. And every time I spoke up, I was the problem. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just my parents. The entire extended family had been conditioned to orbit around Haley, to protect her, to excuse her, to justify whatever mess she created, no matter who got hurt in the process. They didn't see me as the neglected son. They saw me as the one disrupting the family harmony. I wasn't just going against my parents anymore. I was going against an entire system that had been built around shielding Haley at all costs. Sunday night, right as I was prepping for the work week, I got an email from my mom. Not a text, not a call, an email, like we were distant coworkers and she needed to make things official. The subject line was just, "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a while before opening it. Her words were drenched in nostalgia and guilt. "I miss you," she wrote. I hope you're not throwing away years of love over one holiday." She made it sound like I'd torched the family over a chair at dinner, like the years of favoritism and emotional neglect didn't exist. Then she attached baby pictures, old scanned photos of me and Haley sitting on the porch, covered in sidewalk chalk. Me holding her hand at a pumpkin patch. One of us sleeping on the couch in matching pajamas. She wrote, "Remember when it was just the two of you against the world?" And for a second, I'll admit, it hit me. A wave of guilt. That dull ache in my chest that says, maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you're being too harsh. But then the clarity returned. She never sent those photos when I was around. Never shared memories when things were okay. Only now, after I stopped being their free babysitter, their delivery guy, their emotional punching bag, was I suddenly worth remembering. It wasn't love. It was strategy. A soft manipulation disguised as affection. I wasn't falling for it this time. I didn't reply. I archived the email and sat there, letting the silence settle around me. That guilt? It wasn't mine to carry anymore, and I wasn't going back to being their backup plan. A few days after that email, I got a DM on Facebook from my Aunt Linda. At first, I was confused. She rarely messages me, and when she does, it's usually cat memes or those cheesy family chain messages. But this one was different. It looked like she meant to forward something privately, but accidentally sent it to me. Curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it. It was a screenshot of a group chat between her, my mom, and Haley. No context, no explanation, just raw, unfiltered conversation. My name was the main topic. They were laughing about how overly dramatic I was being. My aunt wrote, "He's probably sulking in some dark apartment like always." Haley followed up with, "Whatever. He'll come crawling back when he needs money. He always does." And the worst part? My mom replied, "He just needs to grow up. Let him throw his tantrum." I read it 3 times, each sentence hitting harder than the last. These weren't strangers talking about me. This was my mother, my sister, my aunt, the people who claimed to love me. And this is how they spoke when they thought I wasn't watching. Like I was a burden, a punchline, a child acting out for attention. It wasn't just painful. It was clarifying. Like a fog had lifted. All those years, I spent second-guessing my worth, wondering if I was being too sensitive. This was the proof. Proof that the version of me they pretended to care about didn't even exist to them. That same night, I opened my phone settings and changed my number. I didn't tell anyone, I didn't make a post, I just vanished from their reach. Because if they could talk about me like that behind closed doors, then they didn't deserve to find me when those doors slammed shut. After that group chat leak, I didn't just block a few people, I went nuclear. I opened my contacts and deleted every single name that tied me to that family. Mom, Dad, Haley, Aunt Linda, even Jenna, gone. Then I went through my social media and scrubbed it clean. Unfollowed everyone. Even the ones who hadn't said anything, because silence from people who claim to love you is just a quieter form of betrayal. I even removed photos. Not because I was trying to erase my past, but because every time I saw a picture from some old birthday or holiday, I remembered what was really happening outside the frame. Me smiling while Haley opened her 5th gift. Me in the background, forgotten. I realized I had spent years trying to prove I was worth something to people who had already decided I wasn't. I stopped explaining myself. I didn't write a long text. I didn't make a dramatic Instagram post about cutting off toxic people. I just disconnected. Quietly, fully. Because if they actually cared about me, they would have shown it before I had to beg for it. And yes, it hurt, of course it hurt. No one tells you that grieving the living is worse than grieving the dead. You keep hoping they'll change. Keep waiting for a call that comes with sincerity instead of guilt. But eventually, I realized it hurt more to keep showing up and getting cut open over and over. People think going no contact is cruel. But staying in a place where you're constantly diminished, that's colder. That's slow death. And for the first time in years, no tension, no tiptoeing, no guilt, I felt peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't beg to be understood. Christmas rolled in with its usual glow, lights in windows, music in every store, strangers saying, "Merry Christmas" with too much cheer. But for me, it felt like a countdown to something I couldn't name. I was holding it together until a plain white envelope showed up at my office a week before Christmas. No stamp, just my name written in my dad's neat all-caps handwriting. Inside was a folded piece of paper, a handwritten letter. I stared at it for a while before reading it, like it might burn me. It started with, "Your mother hasn't stopped crying. You've broken her heart." No, "How are you?" No, "We miss you." No acknowledgement of why I was gone. Just a straight-up emotional gut punch. He went on to say that the family had talked, and everyone agreed I could still make things right if I just came to Christmas dinner, and apologized for how I acted at Thanksgiving. As if everything that happened to me, being displaced, disrespected, erased, was just a bad attitude I needed to fix. Not a single word of apology, not one sign they understood what they did. Just demands dressed up as olive branches. And the kicker? The last line read, "You'll ruin Christmas if you don't come." I wish I could say I shrugged it off, but the truth is, I almost went. I sat in my car on Christmas Eve, keys in the ignition, parked outside a gas station on the edge of town. I just sat there, holding the letter, wondering if maybe I was the one being stubborn, wondering if peace was worth this much silence. But then I saw a little kid walk past my car, holding his dad's hand, both laughing about something. And it hit me. That was what family was supposed to feel like, and whatever mine was, it wasn't that. So I drove home, alone, but finally not lonely. After the letter, I didn't have any plans for Christmas. I told myself I'd be fine. Ordered takeout, watch a few movies, maybe finally start that book collecting dust on my shelf. But Leo, my coworker and one of the few people who knew the full story, wasn't having it. 2 days before Christmas, he came by my desk and said, "You're coming to my parents' house. No arguing. My mom already set a place for you." I started to decline, but he cut me off. "You deserve to feel like someone actually wants you around this year." So I went, mostly out of politeness, half out of exhaustion. And the second I walked through that door, something cracked open in me. His mom hugged me like she'd been waiting years to do it. His dad clapped me on the back and said, "Leo told us you've been through some stuff. Come eat. No judgment here." His little nieces dragged me into their board game war, and I actually laughed. Like real, unguarded laughter I didn't know I still had in me. There was no tension, no eggshells, just warmth, just belonging. And somewhere between dessert and the third round of Uno, it hit me. I had never felt this scene at my own family's table. I had spent so many years chasing a seat at a table where I was barely tolerated. And here, among near strangers, I felt wanted. That night, lying on a pull-out couch in their guest room, I cried. Quiet, relieved tears that tasted more like release than sadness. And I promised myself something in that moment. I'm done settling for scraps. I'm done begging to be loved by people who only notice me when I'm useful. I called a therapist the next morning, and for once I wasn't doing it to fix myself. I was doing it to rebuild. It had been a few quiet weeks since Christmas. Therapy was helping. I was sleeping better. I'd even started leaving my phone on Do Not Disturb and actually enjoying the silence. But then, one random Tuesday afternoon, I got a ping from an old email I rarely check. Something about being tagged in a baby registry. Curious, I clicked the link. It was Haley's baby registry, fully public, loaded with everything from diapers to designer nursery furniture. And right at the top of the list was a $400 stroller, with a note next to it that read, "Gift from the world's best uncle." My name was listed right beside it. Not suggested, not requested, assigned. No one had asked me, no one had contacted me, they just added me like I was a guest at a wedding I didn't RSVP to, like I was still playing a role in a family I had clearly exited. As if the boundary I set didn't exist or didn't matter, I didn't reply, didn't reach out. I just took a screenshot and dropped it into my group chat with Leo and a couple other close friends. I captioned it, "These people are wild." The responses were instant. Leo sent a voice note saying, "Bro, I thought you were exaggerating before." "Nope, they're actually unhinged." Another friend replied, "What kind of delusional sitcom are they living in?" And that's when I realized something important. I wasn't even hurt, just done. Fully, finally done. This wasn't some desperate plea for reconnection. It was just another entitled ask from people who never actually saw me, only what I could give. The baby registry wasn't about love, it was about control. And that click, mark as spam, felt like the final nail in a coffin I should have buried years ago. After weeks of silence, therapy sessions, and ignoring yet another Target wishlist notification, I reached a point where I just needed to let it out. Not to scream into the void, but to be heard. I wasn't looking for revenge. I didn't want to expose anyone by name. I just wanted to know if I was crazy. So I opened Reddit, created a throwaway account, and started typing. The title was something like, "My parents replaced me with my sister's baby, then asked me to buy the crib." And I laid it all out, the Thanksgiving seating chart, the garage mattress, the Black Friday crib text, the letter, the registry, everything. I hit post and turned off my phone, expecting a few pity comments at most. When I came back hours later, the post had exploded. Thousands of upvotes, comments pouring in by the minute. People from all over the world telling me they saw me, believed me, that they'd lived versions of my story. Stories of golden children and scapegoats, of being the quiet one who got punished for not making noise. One comment said, "You were never the problem. You were just the one easiest to blame." I stared at that line for a long time. It hit me harder than any insult my family ever threw my way, because it unlocked something. For the first time, I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't bitter. I was conditioned, trained to accept neglect and call it love. That thread lit a fire in me, not out of rage, but out of truth. The kind of truth that makes silence feel like a betrayal to yourself. I didn't need them to apologize anymore. I just needed to stop hiding and start healing, whether they ever caught up or not. A few months passed. I was in a better place. Therapy was working. I had routines that didn't revolve around walking on eggshells. Life was quieter, lighter. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message request on Instagram from an account with no profile picture and a name I didn't recognize. The first line read, "Hey, I know this is random, but I used to date Haley." I froze for a second. The guy turned out to be her ex, Trent. We'd never really spoken one-on-one, but I remembered him being around during that Thanksgiving disaster. He said he'd left Haley a few weeks ago and that things had gotten bad. According to him, she'd spiraled emotionally, and my parents were overwhelmed trying to manage her life and the baby. "They're all exhausted," he wrote. "Now they're saying they need you back, for stability, for help. Not love, not reconciliation, stability. Like I was a reset button they could push now that their golden child was out of control. Like I was the family's backup battery." Trent told me, "I'm sorry for how I played along. I didn't realize how twisted the dynamic was until I became the new tool. Haley weaponizes people." His words didn't shock me. They just confirmed what I already knew deep down. I thanked him for the honesty. I really did appreciate it. But I told him clearly, I'm not going back. I'm not the fixer anymore. I'm not their emotional insurance policy. Some bridges need to burn, not out of hatred, but to light the path forward. And that message, as sad as it was, felt like the final match tossed over my shoulder. Whatever fire came next, I knew it wouldn't consume me. It would clear the way. Today, I live in a small but peaceful apartment. No baby toys in the hallway, no guilt in the air, no passive-aggressive voicemails or just checking in texts that are really traps. It's quiet, but it's mine. There's no one to perform for, no role I'm expected to play. Just me, and for once that's enough. I celebrated my last birthday with friends who actually see me. Leo showed up with a goofy cake that said, "Most underrated legend" in bright blue frosting. We toasted to me, not to someone louder than me, not to someone messier, not to someone who stole the spotlight. Just me. And I've never felt so full. Do I still think about that Thanksgiving? Yeah. Sometimes it sneaks up on me when I see families hugging in commercials or when I hear certain songs. But it doesn't hurt the same way anymore. It's not a wound. It's a marker. The moment I finally woke up. The day I stopped auditioning for love that had to be earned through self-sacrifice. People always ask if I hate them now. And the truth is, I don't. Hating them would mean I still gave them space in my heart. I don't hate my family, just love myself more now. Enough to walk away, enough to stay away. Sometimes you don't get the apology. Sometimes there's no bow-wrapped ending, no perfect reconciliation, just distance, just healing, just you, finally able to breathe. Closure doesn't always come with a conversation. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it's the freedom not to explain anymore. And for the first time in my life, I'm not bitter, I'm just free.